Okay. So I'm here to talk about portfolios, and portfolios are all different. So I actually found it quite challenging when I was writing this talk, because there's going to be people out there, with massive portfolios, and then there's people with small portfolios, and there's probably people here who don't even have a portfolio. And, I think this is how I think a portfolio is born. Usually you want to grow, like you've got one successful site and you think, can I grow this site or should I grow another site? Oh, I haven't pressed it yet. Okay, growth. The other one is diversification. Maybe you've got one really cool business and you're like, yeah, I'm getting a little bit nervous. These Google updates are kind of relentless. Maybe I should have a second business, which is also 100% reliant on SEO. And then this one's definitely me. Shiny objects, come here and you're like, maybe I should start a casino site. Kind of think I've done that joke enough now. Also, opportunity. A lot of the time, you're in a niche, you see something, and you're like, I used to do this all the time. I'd go to the cinema or something, and I'd be pulling out hrefs on my phone and be like, I wonder what the keywords are like for cinemas in Taipei. And the movie hasn't even started yet. You've used 17 href credits. And then another thing is boredom. Maybe you're just bored of the site you're working on and you want to start another site. Or for me, all of the above. And so I don't know if this is how every portfolio is born, but this is definitely how a lot of portfolios are born. You kind of just end up with this amalgamation of sites. And you're like, maybe one of them's crushing it, and the other ones just kind of don't really do anything. Maybe they're all crushing it, in which case, fuck you. Maybe they're all struggling, who knows? But I think most portfolios end up something like this. And I think there's really two things. No matter what stage your portfolio is at, there's really two things that you're trying to do with it, I think. One is wealth appreciation, so you're trying to grow your wealth. And one is wealth preservation. You're trying not to lose it all. Or, I don't know if you can see this, it says getting rich AF. Tim, AF stands for as fuck. Or staying rich as fuck. That's basically your goal. You're either trying to grow your portfolio and get rich, or you're already rich and you're like, how can I not lose all this? How can I not fuck this up? And really, you kind of need to pay attention to wealth preservation anyway, because if you're growing a portfolio, you still need to think about risks, because otherwise you'll be like me. Every time you grow something else goes down, and you just 2 steps forward, 2.5 steps back, and you just never feel like you're getting anywhere. So the first thing you should do with your portfolio, and I think wherever it is, again, you're crushing it, you're struggling, you should think about the threats. So let's talk about the threats to your portfolio. The first one is obvious, traffic risk. I think most of us, the biggest threat to our portfolio is traffic, probably SEO, but it could be paid traffic, could be Pinterest. I bought a Pinterest site once because I was like, yeah, it's not SEO. Turns out Pinterest is also a dick. Platform risk. So maybe you're too reliant on Amazon affiliate, Amazon FBA. Maybe you're too reliant on whatever. You guys know what platform risk is. I think most people, when they think about the risks to their portfolio, it's going to be these two. But there's also focus risk. What happens when you spread yourself too thin and you can't focus on any one business? Which business do you think about in the shower? If it's all of them, probably got a risk to your business there. So in this case, you might think, let's say you've got a huge portfolio, it's going well, you're more in wealth preservation mode. Maybe what you should be thinking about is delegation. Who can I hire to run one of these businesses or two of these businesses so that I get their shower thoughts on this business? And then you have someone else come in and run something else. Challenge you might have is maybe your portfolio is small. Maybe you've got 20 sites that are all making $1,000, and you're making $20,000, which is good, but how can you bring people in to run that portfolio? because they're not going to want to work on 20 sites, and you can't afford to have them all on individual sites. So this is a problem people often have. Could be team risk. Maybe your team's really good and you're worried about them leaving. Maybe your team sucks and you're worried about them destroying your portfolio. Or maybe you can't grow your portfolio because your team's not good enough. Concentration risk. This isn't concentration as in focus, it's concentration as in maybe you're too much in one place. Maybe 99% of your portfolio comes from Google traffic. Maybe 80% of your portfolio just comes from one business. Maybe you're just too all in on one thing, and you're like, yeah, maybe I should diversify a little bit. So, what do you do in this situation? Maybe you sell off one of your businesses. Maybe you try and grow some of the other ones. There's things you can do. And then the other big risk, I think a lot of us don't think about this, is business model risk. Maybe you have a content agency and it's not doing so well right now because of LLMs and stuff. So you could have a fundamental risk in your business. Maybe you shouldn't have started that DVD player niche last year. But the fun stuff is where you can also consider the opportunities. So I'm going to kind of share this by just giving my example. So my path to IPO, it was never on the radar when I started on Folio. I was not like, I'm going to take a company public. What I wanted to do was grow a portfolio. So I sold Human Proof Designs, and it wasn't a fuck you exit or anything. It was like mid six figures. But like actually mid six figures. When people say mid six figures, really they mean like 100K. So I put that money into building my own portfolio. I bought a few websites, but I really wanted to grow something bigger. And I was like, well, I don't have enough money to build a big portfolio, so what can I do? So I became an operator. So what OnFolio originally did was we would work with people who had money, but they didn't know how to buy a business. They would be like, yeah, I see all this stuff on Empire Flippers. I don't know which stuff is good, which stuff is bad. Can you help me buy a business, run it for me, and I'll give you a management fee? And I was like, yeah, I can totally do that. So I started out as an operator. And then I built up my investor audience. I started doing content about how to make money from buying websites. I think I went on the Authority Hacker podcast, and that was like, a good one that brought people in. I joined Rhodium, which is a Facebook group and also a conference, and I just started getting investors in my audience, and so then I kind of realized, oh, I can have a holding company. So instead of working with all these individual investors, because at one point in 2021, we looked at all of our portfolio, and we were managing about 40 sites or 35 sites, something like that. And the average cash-on-cash returns was 36%. And we were like, well, that's pretty good. And then every Google update would come in, and one site would get wiped off the face of the earth, but all the others were fine. So I'd say to investors, yeah, we've got a really good track record, like 35 sites, only one's been fucked. But like the guy who bought a website for 100K, and he was the one that got fucked, he was kind of like, yay, great track record. And so I was like, maybe we should pivot, and everybody owns the same pie. So if one site gets hit, doesn't really matter, another site will go up. Remember when that used to happen? There'd be like a Google update, and some sites would get fucked, and other sites would go up. Like, it doesn't seem to work that way anymore. They just all get hit. And then later, I had a chance to IPO because in 2021, the market, everything was up. There was a huge bubble, and I met some investment bankers who were like, have you ever thought about taking this public? And I was like, yeah, sure, when we're like, 100 million revenue or whatever. And they were like, well, you could probably get there faster if you IPO early. And I was like, that sounds like a cool thing to do, so why not? But the point of this story is really each bullet point or each milestone in the journey wasn't mapped out ahead. It was really me just looking around, seeing what opportunities I had with my new brain, where I'm like, I've got to think bigger. what can I do to realize my goals? And those were the things. And so here's some ideas for you guys. Really depends where you are in your life, where your portfolio is. For example, maybe you could become an operator too. Maybe you want to have a bigger portfolio, but you don't have the capital, or maybe you don't quite have the experience or the track record, so you could become an operator working for other people. Or maybe you could hire an operator. Maybe you're on the other side. Maybe you've got a big portfolio and you don't want to mess it up. You don't want to work anymore. You want to just chill out. So you could hire an operator. Maybe you could sell some of your businesses. Maybe you've got a big portfolio. You can't sleep at night because you're worried what happens if it all comes crashing down. Or one of your businesses is like 80% of your net worth. So maybe you could sell it and take that money and spread it around a bit better. Or maybe you could just sell a minority. Like you could sell 20% of one of your businesses or 20% of all of your businesses. Take that cash, look for a publicly traded company that buys online businesses and back up the truck. You could invest cash flow outside of SEO. I got the joke with the bullet point wrong. Okay, but yeah, you can take some of that money and you can invest it elsewhere. I remember in 2018 or something, I saw Matt Diggity in a Facebook group saying when he gets profit from his SEO businesses, he takes that money and he buys real estate I think in the US. And I was like, that sounds so clever. I just need to get some money first. Maybe you could make acquisitions. Maybe you can grow through acquisition. That was the model we went with. Maybe you could make minority investments. So this is something Travis has done quite a lot, quite successfully. The best businesses are usually not for sale. So just find these businesses and be like, hey, do you want to take some chips off the table? There's kind of two ways you can do it. Sometimes somebody needs an investment to grow their business. And sometimes they just want to take some chips off the table because maybe they're in the sell minority bullet point. So maybe you can say to someone, hey, I want to diversify a bit more. I've got some cash. Do you want to just sell like 10% of your business or 20%, whatever the size is? You can take some chips off the table, and I can be a bit more diversified. I think people should do more of that. Maybe you can raise money. It's hard, but money brings lots of opportunities. Maybe you can do partnerships. There's a ton of people here you can partner with. Maybe there's a way you can partner with someone, bring you up to the next level. Jackie Cho, or Chow, on Twitter, he's always talking about partnerships. Don't really know what he does, but it looks like it's up and to the right. Maybe you can build a better business. So Gail from Authority Hacker posted on somewhere online saying they had an Authority Hacker meetup or some kind of meetup on Saturday, and everybody's focus was on traffic. How can I grow my traffic? How can I get more SEO traffic or whatever? It was all about traffic. And his point was, you shouldn't be thinking about growing your traffic. You should be thinking about how can I build a better business. Traffic is just something that builds a business. It's not the business. And I think we forget that sometimes. And maybe you can diversify away from SEO. That's the same thing. That's what we did. In 2020, we were like, every time there's a Google update, seems like an e-commerce business or New York Post or some other shit takes SERPs away from content sites. Maybe we should stop buying content sites. And then 2022, ChatGPT comes out, and everyone's like, are you worried about AI? And I was like, not really, because it's like 1% of our revenue is SEO, like content sites now. But we also sold content, so slightly different risk. But yeah. So this is a quote from me just now. You probably take your skills for granted. You know, when you come here and you realize you're good at SEO and you're good at affiliate marketing and you're good at building a service agency or whatever, you probably take it for granted because everybody here does it. And you might think you're not that good because somebody else is better. But you know so much about business here. Like, you guys could probably buy any business and do well with it. So don't just be too myopic and coming to an SEO conference being like, don't do SEO. But basically, you guys know so much, and you've got so many skills that so many other people don't have. So just start to think more about what else can you do. So that's like the takeaway. Is to think. It's a bit of a lame way to finish, but that's kind of my challenge to everyone: is to think bigger, or think, if you're frustrated with where you are, you can totally fix that. You just need to think, what else can I do?